Well, cool. You know, Alan, I am going to be. I'll do my best to be broad, but I'd love if you jumped in and told me any topics that are of particular interest, because it can be tough to spin off the top with such a huge set as everything SEO and everything digital marketing. So I think a few of the big trends that we're seeing and observing, and this is over the last few years, but I think many of the critical parts of data that are essential to our workflows and our jobs keep disappearing. So many years ago, that was link data. Obviously, a lot of the commands in Google that used to be useful have gone away, and now we're seeing that more and more. We're seeing more and more sampling inside of Webmaster Tools, now Search Console. We're seeing less data inside AdWords, obviously the removal of volume data for a lot of advertisers who aren't spending enough or who are asking for too many data points on too many keywords. That's getting pretty frustrating for folks. And then I think we're also moving to a world where Google can't actually give us as much specific information about why a site or page is ranking or why they're not. And that was always the case, but it was by choice on Google's side. Now it is a forcing function of how their algorithm is constructed, because machine learning is at the core and deep learning is at the core of how they're building their infrastructure. And you could see Stephen Levy's great article about that on backchannel.com. No one from Google can say, this is why this ranks here, necessarily, right? And that is, I think, a real challenge for folks. Can you hear me okay? Yeah? Yes? Okay, all right, great. I think because all this data is disappearing, and because it becomes more and more essential to our jobs, because digital marketing and SEO have been baked into the, finally, at long last, right? I mean, 10 years ago, this was not the case. 5 years ago, this was barely the case. Today, it's finally getting to the point where, you know, a CMO at a big company, at a small company, is recognizing the importance of search and of digital traffic channels of all kinds, including organic ones that used to just be paid that people cared about. And because of that, reporting is critical. And so too is explaining the process to, you know, managers, especially for in-house folks, to the rest of their teams, to their executives. And that's a real challenge when a lot of these data points are going missing. And because of that, I think what we're seeing is a big trend towards third-party tools trying to acquire that data for folks. And I think one of the most interesting things, so if you ask an email marketer, how many tools on average do you use in a week to send your email campaigns? The answer is 1 or 2, right? It's sort of my email sending program, and maybe I have some verification tools, or maybe I have some other writing tools or analysis tools. 1 or 2. If you ask a web analytics person what they're using, it might be a combination of like Mixpanel and Google Analytics, or Omniture and Mixpanel, or Omniture and GA, or, you know, 1 or 2 other things. If you ask a digital marketer focused on social what tools they're using, there's probably a little more, 2 or 3, maybe 4 that they might use in a week, right? They might be using some social analytics specific tools like a Little Bird or a Follower Wonk. They might also be using something like True Social Metrics or Sprout Social for tracking all their campaigns and broad data. So all right, a few different tools. And then you ask an SEO. Ask an SEO how many tools they use in a week, and it's 10. On average, 10. It is nightmarishly complex to do our jobs effectively, and the reason is that SEO is a hyper-competitive field where any small advantage is worth, you know, paying a lot of money for and spending the time to go learn a new practice or learn a new tool or a new system or a new data set. And because of that, there's sort of these individual point solutions that many folks consider best in class, or it's the thing they're most familiar with, they're most comfortable with, and so they're happy to use, 10 different things. It's like, yeah, I use Moz for this, I use Ahrefs for that, I use SEMrush for this, I use Google Search Console for that, I log into GA, I'm doing a little bit in Mixpanel, I have my toolbar installed, I'm using Screaming Frog, right? Like the list just keeps going on and on and on. And so I think this trend is, what I hope is that it's temporary, right? I think what usually comes out of that field is there's like a shift either inside of Google itself or from one of the other major providers, and that could be someone like Bing decides to open source everything and make it all available, or one of the tool providers gets so good and so comprehensive that everyone starts using that as the default. But it's an interesting transitional time. So this is a big trend, right? The loss of data, the compensation through third-party tools, the need to put all that stuff together and glue it together, that's a huge, huge challenge. Another big trend that we're seeing in digital marketing is like I think the maturation of the content marketing world. So content marketing a few years ago was kind of like, put out content, people will come, the search engines will find you, you'll get amplified on social. And now, of course, those voices are getting louder and louder. The quantity of content has vastly overwhelmed the amount of attention that can be given to content. And so the field has become much more competitive. And so now folks who historically said, I do content strategy, I do content marketing, I don't worry about the channels of distribution, that's just a given. I don't care about SEO. The classic thing, right? Like I was at Content Marketing World earlier this year, and I think for the first time I heard I'm a content marketer, so I have to care about SEO, instead of I'm a content marketer, so I don't give a crap about SEO. And that shift, I think, is also important. I suspect that it means that for digital marketers who are familiar with SEO, they're going to be a lot more in demand from the field of content marketing and content strategy. And I think that distribution is going to be a problem.
If I could ask you a question on that round in particular. I understand one of the conversations at MozCon that was happening was around annual organic link building at scale. Could you talk to us a little bit about your strategies for that?
Yeah, so I have a presentation, actually. My MozCon presentation is online. You can find it on SlideShare. But essentially what we identified is that in looking at many, many hundreds and thousands of websites, we could only really find 5 core strategies, 5 core white hat strategies that companies, big and small, use to earn the majority of their link portfolio, right? And to get kind of a flywheel going where it's tough to begin, but over time it builds momentum and energy on its own. That discovery was pretty interesting, right? I think that we often think 2 ways. We often think 2 ways. Many folks in the SEO and content world think content itself is the only way to get links, right? Or the primary way that non-manual link builders or non-black hat link builders are getting links. And that is not true. And then on the flip side of that, there's folks who think, oh, you can pursue any one of 1,000 different strategies to earn links. That also appears not to be true, or maybe those are just very finite subcategories of these big 5 that we found. But essentially, what I would urge you to do is take a look at that framework, right? If you're a marketer, take a look at that framework. If link acquisition is going to be a big part of your strategy going forward, right? You need links to either get you direct referral traffic or get you the press and coverage you need or send you the traffic you need, or to earn the rankings that you need in SEO. You better have a strategic mindset around that, because manual link building, one-off manual link building is always going to be beat by someone who's building that flywheel and who over time is out earning you on links every day from doing relatively nothing, right? But very little compared to the increasing or same amount of work that you have to do each time to get each link. And that is, I think, the kind of the dichotomy that's always existed in link building. But as the content marketing world heats up and as it becomes more competitive, that distribution channel is getting saturated more and more, right? It's not just the content consuming audiences that are being overwhelmed now. It is all of the influencer and potential link creation audiences. And that's everyone from bloggers to journalists to other website owners to marketers, we are all getting overwhelmed by this glut of content. So tougher and tougher to stand out, more and more important to have that strategy.
Okay. Let me just go to Twitter and see if we've got any questions from the audience here, Rand. Excuse me. Okay, so this is from Sean Markey, and Sean says, we like to joke about SEO being dead. Do you think it will ever be, or if Google page one will ever be ads only?
Yeah, so Sean, actually we did some interesting research on this. So one of the things, in order to get at this, the first thing I talked about with that missing data, in order to get at that, we have been buying clickstream data from a number of providers here in the US. For a few different countries, but primarily the United States itself. So at MozCon, I presented some data right at the start showing distribution of clicks on search results. And there's some fascinating information. So first off, a little over half of all searches result in no click on an external result. So that could mean someone started searching and then they decided to search for something else. It could mean they got the answer right in Google. It could mean that they clicked on something like Maps, or Google Maps, or an answer from one of Google's properties itself. But basically, they did not leave Google.com. Maybe they clicked a related search at the bottom, or they clicked next page, whatever it is. Okay, so that's a little more than half. So now we're left with like 47% of all clicks. Of that 47%, I believe it is about a little over, just over 2%, maybe like 2.5%, click on an ad. So ads show on quite a good number of search results. I think it's in the 18 to 20% range across all the ones that we looked at. So ads are showing about a fifth of the time. A fifth of the time, there's no ads at all, right? Which makes sense. There's lots of things that people search for that no one wants to bid on. That makes total sense. On those 1 out of 5, right? You're getting clicks, but we're talking about a very small quantity. So Google is really earning money from about 1% of all the searches that are performed directly. So that's kind of a mind-numbing stat. And look, I think ads could be, Google continues to make ads more and more aggressive. And I think where they want to go is they're going to keep pushing that until they get to the line where they worry about regulation. So regulation from either the EU or from the United States. The United States is less likely. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Our government basically operates on a system of legalized bribery. So Google, I mean, yeah.
They're the biggest lobbyists in the States now, aren't they? The Google have a bigger budget for lobbying than the oil companies.
Yes, that's right. Google is the second largest lobbyist in the United States, and one of the biggest campaign contributors. And so they are a very, very powerful force in influencing politics. And therefore, you probably will not see them get sued. They sort of saw what happened to Microsoft in the 90s when Microsoft ignored that sort of legal regulation. But in any case, so Google will go up to that line with their advertising. And I think they're not that far off, right? The ads are very subtly different at this point. What you see every time Google rolls out a new advertising UI, a new visual format for advertising, is that click-through rates on ads increase, and then they kind of slowly decrease. I think Andrew Chen had a great name for that. He called it the law of shitty click-through rates, right? Like anytime a new form of visualization or of advertising is introduced, the click-through rates will be very high, and then over time, it just kind of slopes down very fast, and you have that long tail, but it's a quick drop-off within a few months. And Google sees that too, right? That they change the ad format, they get more clicks, and then people get savvy to, oh yeah, that's an ad, and that's organic, and I want to click on the organic stuff mostly. And
that's what we found is last time we did a count, they released 23 new AdWords innovations in a quarter. So you're talking about almost 2 a week, and it's speaking to exactly that. So one of the ways we keep our clients ahead of the curve is as soon as they extend the headline or they add a price extension, we're out, we have it day one. Google Shopping went live in Ireland last week, and we've the first people in Ireland up on Google Shopping. So they're going to see a huge bump, but you need to keep implementing the next innovation to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I think this is super smart. And advertising is not the only side of the equation where I would do that, right? SEO is another great one. When they introduced schema, folks who could be ahead of that curve. I remember rel author. So for folks who don't recall, rel author was when they would actually show the author's profile photo and like a little bit of information right next to the search result. So if you used rel author, you could show in the search result with your photo and like a little bio or name thing. It was awesome for click-through rate, was great for branding, just a terrific opportunity. It disappeared, I think, 2 years after it was introduced. But for folks who jumped on it quickly, they saw lots of traffic, lots of brand identification and familiarity. And then, you have these people who are going, well, I knew it was going away, so I never bothered, putting it on my site. And I just think to myself, you can't possibly think that was a good idea. You ignored an opportunity when it was there, and so you lost out on all the advantages of it. I don't care how much work it is. It was worth it. So yes, I think staying ahead of that curve, right? Even if AdWords changes how Google Shopping works 2 weeks from now, your clients still will have benefited from you implementing it right now.
And then you're getting a click-through lift, so you have a quality score benefit, and then your ads are ranking higher. It feeds itself.
And this is true on the organic side too. So we have a theory right now that the same way that a lot of what Google considers either domain authority or subfolder authority, they seem to be imparting authority in organic SERPs on a subfolder by subfolder basis. Domain inherits some, subdomains inherit some, subfolders also. And that, we believe, is governed by a lot of the same rules that AdWords has around engagement and quality score, click-through rate, searcher satisfaction, people not bouncing back to the search results. So obviously links are a big part of that too, and so too are other reputational signals, content signals certainly, but that is our working theory right now, that they've basically taken a lot of the things that have been in AdWords quality score and are applying them over to the SEO side. So you want to build up that kind of portfolio of great looking click-through rate, and you want to cut cruft. This is why, there was a great case study on Moz's website from Everett Sizemore a few weeks ago, and what it was showing is, he basically had these websites where they had all this cruft, this crappy content that was earning low engagement rate, low click-through rate, didn't get a lot of links, people left those pages very quickly, didn't perform well in search results, and he just got rid of them entirely. I think in one case used 404s, in one case redirected most of them, and in another case just used the no index, right? Meta robots no index. And in all three cases, rankings for the rest of the site went up, suggesting that there's like this global governance that Google's got with these pages, and cutting out cruft, increasing your website's quality score in organic the same way you would do with campaigns in AdWords is a powerful tactic.
Very interesting. One of the things that keeps me up at night, Rand, is like yourself, we've all made our living here from Google. We're search marketers. We're on the paid side, we're on the organic side. The KPI study we've just shown to people is really demonstration that Google almost has a monopoly on traffic to websites. We're tracking 69%, revenue 67%. But the thing that keeps me up at night is the growing app ecosystem. And so much of the internet is now hidden behind the app. And at the moment, there's a discoverability issue, and it doesn't quite, we know when we get to Google, it's our window to the World Wide Web, but it feels like there's a massive internet growing within the app ecosystem that Google can't quite get to. Do you think the app ecosystem is going to take the internet away from Google, or is Google going to find its way into those apps?
So I have a somewhat controversial theory, but I think the data over the last couple of years has kind of been backing it up, which is apps feel like they're big, but they are not actually big. I know that sounds crazy. I know you're like, Rand, what the hell's wrong with you? But hang on. So if we look at time spent on mobile devices, like 80% of the time spent on mobile devices is spent on apps.
Yeah.
and 20% is spent on mobile web.
Yeah.
So that sounds really scary, right? That sounds like, oh my
Yeah.
God, the app world is eating that away. Now, take away the top 5 apps.
Yeah. Take away Facebook apps. Almost. Yeah.
Right. So so of that 80%, if you take away Facebook, Maps, email, YouTube, and your favorite game.
Yeah.
And then for some people, Twitter is their favorite game or whatever it is. You take away those top 5, then you are left with basically like 5%.
Yes.
Is spent on every other app in the world, right?
Okay.
So I also am of the opinion that all that time that's spent on Facebook, which is more than half of all the app time spent on phones in general, I don't really see the difference between the Facebook app and visiting the Facebook's mobile website. To me, it's sort of just like, okay, so looking at your friends' photos and like messaging each other, that's very popular, but that's the same thing you do on Facebook's website. You happen to be in the app, so it's more responsive. It feels a little better. But I don't know why you'd panic about that, right? Facebook's organic reach is low, yes, but you can still do advertising in Facebook, and you can have some organic reach if your pages do real well. So I don't know. I kind of don't see it as the app world eating up the web world. I think we use apps for different things. You take away Facebook and games. I mean,
I guess. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I guess when people are looking for discoverability, when they're looking for information, they know the World Wide Web is the place for that.
That's right. That's exactly right. I think that the biggest fear that I would have is if Facebook ever got good enough at search and was able to brand and market themselves as an alternative to Google, then I think you are in that scary place of like locked into Facebook's world, right? Because there's such a closed ecosystem. I'm not as scared. I think Facebook has gone down the let's think about search path a number of times, and there have been prognostications for years where people are like, oh, Facebook is going to take over search.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think Facebook is smart enough to know we should be the best in the world at the thing we're best in the world at. We should not try and compete on this thing that this other company is best in the world at. So I'm skeptical about that.
Okay, I'll sleep a little bit better now. Thanks very much, Rand.
Yeah, if you want, there's some excellent data from Cindy Crum at Mobile Moxie in her presentation on SlideShare, I think her latest presentation, that shows the sort of distribution of that app ecosystem. And those slides will just look at the visuals and the numbers. You will sleep way better tonight.
Okay, great. I've got 2 Moz-related questions that I think I can bring together as one, if that's all right. So one of them is, what changes to the Moz Pro reporting suite can we expect after the internal restructure and renewed focus on pure SEO? And the other one along similar lines is, what exciting new features are you currently working on for Keyword Explorer?
Oh, yeah. So let's see, I'll answer the first one the second, since that one is super easy for me. So Keyword Explorer, don't tweet this, but next week is launching some new features, including...
We're live on the internet.
So I'm telling you, whole internet, just, like, keep it on the down low, internet. So next week is launching some new features around being able to see, if you've got a big keyword list, you can, with a couple clicks right in the app itself, see all the pages, all the keywords that you are already ranking for, or that one of your competitors is already ranking for, and then you can sort and filter by that. In a couple more months, you will be able to not just enter a keyword and get suggestions, but you will be able to enter a URL or a domain or a subdomain and get suggestions based on the page or the website. I think that'll be useful for a lot of folks who kind of aren't really sure maybe which keywords to start with, or don't want to bias the search, but would rather just give, hey, this is my website, or this is my competitor's website that I'm thinking about getting this industry. Show me all the terms and phrases that are relevant for that, or that they're ranking for already, that kind of thing. As far as Moz Pro goes, so I think you asked specifically about reporting, and I believe reporting is something that they are passionate about doing next year after they complete 2 other big innovations. One is making, like, the big goal is basically let's not make every SEO have to learn all the technical ins and outs of Screaming Frog in order to crawl their site and get all the data back that they need. Let's make that a very simple interface right inside Moz Pro. So I think it's kind of a like, how do we create a UI, a UX, and a powerful crawler that does all the custom things you might want to do without you having to learn a lot of regular expression and Excel filtering, to use a more manual tool like Screaming Frog. So that is, I think, first up. That's probably by the end of the year or early next year. And then the second one is the link index, which has been, as you probably all know, I think, subpar, especially outside the United States. It's decent in the US, it's okay in the UK and Canada, but outside of those regions, it really, really falls off the cliff compared to the competition. And even in those regions, I think it's not ideal, not good enough. And so we have I believe the test actually started running, it starts running tonight at midnight for an index that is about maybe 5 to 10 times the size of our current one and runs in real time. And if that test works, we'll be productionizing it over the next 6 months, and then you will see that link data. So crawl and links first, then reporting next year. And with Keyword Explorer, you're going to see the rankings data and URL stuff, and then there'll be some more innovations coming after that, including probably a large SERPs corpus that you can query. And yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, I'm aware that we're close to time here, so I want to get some more questions in. So let's see, we have a few here. We might go quick fire. Okay, I've definitely got two anyway. So one coming from Gus Spalogia. First of all, he's asking about Penguin 4. So perhaps for some people, if you could explain Penguin 4 first. And then the question is, do you expect Penguin 4 still causing an impact, or SEOs change their behavior to avoid these problems?
Yeah, so Penguin 4.0 basically is Google making their penalization of spam links and non-editorial links. They're shifting it in a bunch of ways. One is that it's going from an intermittent update that happened every 6 to 9, sometimes 12 months, to a real-time system, which is very, very good news for all of us for a bunch of different reasons, including if you ever have a website that gets penalized, and you go through the process of the reconsideration requests and getting rid of your bad links and all that kind of stuff, you could expect that Google might unpenalize that site very quickly, in a matter of days or weeks, rather than a matter of who knows when the next update is, could be months out. Second big thing that they said they're doing, which we have yet to be able to prove to ourselves, and I generally don't trust Google's announcements until we can prove it with data, but what they said is that they're going from a model that penalizes an entire website for getting bad links to a model that either discounts bad links entirely or shifts the ranking inputs that are used on search queries where lots of spam links exist so that those spam links aren't weighted as heavily anymore. And that's a subtle distinction, but it could be an important one. Now, as for Gus's question, was it Gus? Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So as for Gus's question about changing SEO's behavior, I think it particularly changes our behavior most around penalty removal, where I think we're going to learn a lot more over the next few months, but I suspect that the long reconsideration requests and disavow files and removal of links may not be as critical, especially if we're talking about a small number of bad links that we were not responsible for. I think we won't have to panic quite as much about the disavow and the reconsideration and the like, no, Google, I didn't do this, I don't know who did it. I think it also removes a lot of fear, and I think this is why Google made this change. I think it removes a lot of fear around negative SEO, which has been extremely rare but possible over the last few years since Penguin came out, and that just sucks for everyone involved. You don't want to see extortionists, and you were seeing people who would essentially point a bunch of spammy links at a website, tell them that they had to pay to get them removed, and use that. I mean, it's an extortion tactic, and unfortunately was a legal one. So that's pretty sketchy stuff. And that fear should go away. I think the only other thing that is probable is that for folks in the spam and black hat worlds, they may be able to get faster information about which links Google catches and doesn't catch. So you spin up a bunch of spam generators, you point a bunch of bad links at place, and then you see whether they're counted or not counted, and you can learn that in a matter of days rather than in a matter of months. And that could make spammers a little savvier and more effective in the short term. Well, we'll have to see whether Google's machine learning systems can keep up with that. I hope that they can.
Okay, great. So final question, Rand, and this one's not an SEO question, it's a Rand Fishkin question. If you could go back to your younger self and rather than go on your highly successful path to one of the world's most famous digital marketers, what would Rand Fishkin be instead?
Oh, gosh. Well, I wish I had the hand-eye coordination to be a chef.
All right.
I love food, I love preparing food, but I am so clumsy with knives and kitchen equipment. I'm pretty sure the CIA would have thrown me out. Culinary Institute of America would have thrown me out right from the start. But certainly chefing is one thing I love to do. I'm actually, I think I might have loved to be an artist of some kind. I don't know whether that, and I mean artist very broadly, not necessarily visual art, but could be anything from design and graphic design stuff, which I love, to installation art type of stuff. I'm very passionate about street art. I actually got into that a couple of years ago, and I love that. Fashion.
Great.
I don't know, some kind of art world. I think I have the temperament of an artist. I get very emotional about things all the time, and I'm super picky about details.
I think it would suit you. Yeah, I absolutely think so. What does everybody think? Would Rand make a good artist? Yeah, they're all cheering in agreement.
All right, that sounds
maybe
great.
you have a fantastic second career awaiting for you if the apps take over and Google dies.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'll move to the Irish countryside and open up a little artist studio, and
we'd be delighted to have you. We'd look after you very well. So, Rand, thanks so much for your time. You've been so generous again. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Just before we let everyone go, I'm going to try and get everybody. It's hard for me to get the laptop there, so can everybody come up the front and we can all give Rand a cheer and a wave? Okay. And everybody come up the front. Everybody up the front. Come on, don't be shy.
Oh my gosh. Thank you all so much for...
Come on up the front, everybody. Go on, up. Yeah. Don't be shy. Keep coming. Fill up the front. Keep coming. Come on, Colette. I've never seen you this shy before. Here you go. Okay. Awesome. I'm going to take... okay, can everyone give Rand a cheer? Thanks, Rand.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
You're a legend. Bye. Bye. All right.